Hello, I'm Generation 3DX, a Daz Studio artist. Hopefully by now you've watched all of my foundation series on creating beautiful art in Daz. I'm now looking at some more advanced topics that will allow you to expand your repertoire of tools with Daz to help create more realistic and more beautiful scenes. In this new tutorial, we'll be returning to the critical world of color, specifically the colors on your character's face, their makeup. The face is the primary focus for most art involving figures, and subtle decorations of color around the eyes, cheeks and lips can transform the look of your character from something ordinary to an absolute stunner. So being able to control and customize makeup is an important step to taking your 3D art to the next level. Now I will state that I personally struggled with makeup for the longest time, in Daz that is, not in real life. And this is not surprising considering the non-trivial depth of understanding and skill around manipulating surfaces required to apply makeup correctly. Before I was able to take control of the subject, I was relying upon pre-built solutions provided by character artists, and then later experimenting with third-party layered products. But neither provided me with the full level of customization that I desired when needing to match seasonal colors with my characters and to get the right mood. As any savvy female will tell you, there is a different type of makeup for every type of occasion, day or night. By the end of this video, I'll show you how you can take this and without using any pre-built bitmaps or third-party add-ons, produce this result. So if you're ready to up your game in the world of facial beauty, then let's get cracking. Joining us today is the Spanish mamita Rebecca, and we are going to firstly start by taking whatever existing makeup we've got on her through pre-built solutions, and we're just going to clear those out to right down to the very basics. So Rebecca is based on Jasa Flynn. So we're going to basically remove any makeup that has come from the pre-built maps that were provided for her. So let's do that. Now since I don't see a clear makeup option here in the basics, we're going to just do that manually by selecting from the directory. So we want no eyebrows, and that looks like no makeup at all, because the other ones, you can see this is the pre-built character makeup here. So these are what I was using before on my various characters, and that's probably what you've been doing as well. And they definitely are a stopgap, and they will provide you with some great solutions. But ultimately, you want to take control, which is what this video is about. So we're not going to be using any of those. We're going to just do a clear makeup option, and we need to do that not only for the base color but also for the translucency layer as well. So don't forget that. You can see that one's got MU2, which means makeup 02, so we need to clear that. And I don't think there's a SSS layer here, so we will use that one as well. Okay, and now she's definitely got no makeup on. Now let's just check her lips as well, so we need to make sure that we've also got the base layer applied to her lips. By the way, sorry, I was actually on the face layer here. So all makeup except for lips is covered on the face. So that's in Surfaces tab. So you select your character, Surfaces, Face, and everything except lips is going to be covered in the face. So we're only going to be looking at two different surfaces here, the face layer and the lips layer. So we've just done the face, we've cleared the face, and we'll now clear the lips. And that actually does look like that is the default. Yeah, that's the default one there, and that's the default one there. Okay, so Rebecca is now looking quite sad because she doesn't have any makeup on. So let's now work out how we can actually do that in a fully customized way. Okay, so we're going to start easy. And we're going to address her cheeks first. Okay, so what do ladies put on their cheeks? They want to produce a blush or some kind of redness to their cheeks to kind of simulate a healthy complexion or a healthy circulation, I guess is what the origins of that the whole rouge concept comes from. So we want to apply some rouge to her. Okay, the way we're going to do this, and this is going to require some skill in bitmap editing. Okay, now whether you want to use Photoshop or whether you want to use GIMP or anything like that, the tool of your choice is going to be entirely up to you. In my case, I've been using Photoshop now for I think almost about 30 years, so I will be using Photoshop. So you do need a layered bitmap solution, and Photoshop does provide that. Okay, so here I have a Photoshop project, a Photoshop file, and I've preloaded Flynn's base face layer. As Rebecca is based on Flynn. Okay, and we can see here this is the basic bitmap around the face layer. Okay, so in order to apply rouge, you will need to basically use some feathering brushwork to do this. Okay, now I'm just gonna just very quickly demo this, but I already have one pre-prepared which I'm going to show you, which we're going to use because this takes a little bit of time and patience to get right. Okay, so what we can do is we're going to make it's going to look like a clown to do this, but we want to address firstly the color of the brush, and usually rouge is going to be some kind of cross between red and magenta. Okay, and you select your brush, and you want a round brush which is not hard, so it's nice and soft, and you want to make it pretty big as well. Okay, so what we can do, I mean, again, I'm going to show you the pre-built one in a minute, but the idea is that you're going to just go and look on some fashion photography online, and to see where rouge is applied. Okay, it's not always going to be pink, by the way. Sometimes if a person is of darker complexion, then you don't have to use pinks. You can use oranges or browns and so on. The reason that we're going to be using color here, as I'm going to explain why we're going to use color and why we're going to use some other tools such as eyeshadow, which we're going to use white. Okay, but for rouge we're going to use pink, and all will become apparent in a minute. So we do the rouge here and we do the rouge there inexpertly. Anyway, so assuming that you're going to take some time to do this in an expert way, okay, then that will be how you do it. And by the way, you don't do it on the base layer, which is what I just did then. You do it on a separate layer. Okay, here is one I made earlier. Okay, so this is a separate layer in Photoshop. Now you think that looks very clown-like. There's no way a lady's ever going to wear it that bright. The reason you'll see is because you can then tone that down when we actually go into DAZ. So we're going to save this, and we're going to save this as a transparent layer. Okay, so in Photoshop we're going to hide the base layer, so we only just have the rouge layer on its own. So we'll do save for web, and in order to get transparency we select PNG and we save that, and I've already got one saved earlier. This is called Rouge 1, which is not related to the Star Wars film Rogue One, by the way, and that will be our save there. You can assume that I've already done that. So we can go now back into DAZ, and this is where it starts to get interesting. We go to the face, the base color, click on the you can see we've got Jars of Flynn's base layer there. Now we click on the bitmap, the picture icon, and then we're going to click on this special menu here, layered image editor. So what is the layered image editor? A layered image editor is basically what it says it is. Okay, so you can add layers to the base layer here, or translucently, or in fact any layer. So what we're going to do is we're going to use the plus button here, which means to add a new layer. add image layer, and then you go to the directory where you did your saves, and I recommend that you have your own save directory for doing that. Okay, in this case we've got rouge 1 PNG, so we select that and it's going to load it in, and there we go. She looks like a clown there. So what we can do is we can adjust the opacity, probably take that down to about 30%. Even that's probably a little bit too bright. Again, we want a very subtle effect here. We don't want her looking like a clown. Okay, and we just leave everything else as default. We don't mess around with any of these figures, any of these layers or positions or anything like that. Okay, and it's as simple as that, and we just click accept, and then it will apply that now to the image. Now you see here she's got very slight rouge there appearing on her cheeks, and that is how you use the layered image editor, or the LI as it's called. Okay, in this case I could potentially apply it also to the translucency layer. We can do that. That's gonna increase the effect somewhat, but it's not really necessary because it's a very subtle effect we're looking for here. Just turn that down. Right, but it might actually improve the realism of that layer if we do both the translucency and the base color. Just do it down to about 20%, very subtle. So that's a little bit too bright. So probably I'll just adjust the base color and just tone that down a bit. So it's very slow to respond. It can be quite frustrating to use this sometimes. Okay, it's hard to really tell at this point because she doesn't have any other makeup on, so we can always come back to that and adjust that later. But the great thing about the layered image editor is that you can make adjustments in DAZ. You don't have to keep going back to Photoshop or GIMP or something like that. You can just work out, and you can see the preview there as you do these changes. As you can see there, that was at 15, and that's at 70%. Horrible, but you get the idea that basically you can keep adding an almost infinite number of layers to do this. And the reason why we're doing rouge here is because we are reserving the special layers in the base surfaces for other more important effects, and we're going to talk about those now. So that's basically the first introduction to the one of the three things that we're going to change, because we're going to work on the eyes, the cheeks, and the lips. So we've got the cheeks done. Now let's look at the eyes. The eyes are probably going to be the area that you're going to spend most amount of time on, and I personally think they're the most important. But they are the most difficult to get right. We have three considerations to be looking at with eyes. We have the liner, which is the black line that goes right along the lids. We have the shadow, which is in the larger part of both the eyelid and the upper eye as it goes into the brow, as it touches up to the brow. And then we have the shimmer effect, which is an optional effect that you can use on the eyelid, okay, and to a certain degree on the outer part of the shadow as well. Okay, now with liners are pretty straightforward, and it's entirely possible that you will just use a liner that will come with your character. Okay, but if your character doesn't have a liner available, for instance, you can see here Flynn's already got liners. Okay, and we can certainly use one of those if we wanted to, but sometimes the liners might not be in the exact shape that we want. But let's have a quick look here. We may end up using one of these. Now you can see, obviously, you can see the effect that the liner has. The liner really brings out the contrast in the eyes and adds to the beauty of the character. But in my view, that's probably a little bit too heavy for me. So I'm just going to undo that. We'll try a different liner. Flynn's pretty good in that. She's got 4 different liners that you can try. Yeah, we're not going for the Egyptian look, so that's a no. That's the problem I found with a lot of these pre-built liners. They're a little bit too heavy and they have too much of this going on, which I don't really like. You can see where you've got again, we're not going in for Cleopatra. Mark Antony is not available, right? So I'm actually not going to use any of those because they don't give me the one, and I need to demonstrate to you how you're going to do your liner anyway. Okay, so we'll undo that. She's got no liner, so let's do that. Let's make our own liner in our bitmap editor. Okay, so we'll scoot back over to Photoshop and we'll bring up Flynn again. Now a liner, you think liner, oh, that should be pretty easy. I just need to draw a line on the lid. It's actually not as easy as you think. You have to basically just experiment here by judging, by trying drawing a black line, and then just going and then saving it and then importing it into DAZ and see where that is in relation to the eyelids on your character. Okay, here is one I prepared earlier, and you think that looks very amateurish, but you'd be surprised that actually creates a pretty good look. So we have the top eyelid and the bottom eyelid. I think if you go into the middle, it can actually go on to the it can appear on the cornea, on the sclera, on the actual eyeball itself, which is what you don't want. Okay, so again, this is something you only have to do once, so spending a good amount of time on getting it really right is well worth your time. And say it's not, it can be quite tedious work to iterate around until you get it just right, but once it's done, it's done. Okay, so you would save that layer again as a transparency layer. Okay, so again, you do save for web in Photoshop. Just confirm that's showing up there. So yeah, this is not as a JPEG, it would be as a PNG, and you have your transparency. Always make sure your transparency is turned on, and then you would save that to your assets directory. Okay, and we've got one there. See, I've already saved it there. I've got two actually, and I've got to remember which one it was. That was one that was working. We can try one or the other. So we'll go back into DAZ, and we go into the base, and we go to layered image editor again, and then we're going to add another layer, add another image layer, and we'll try eyeliner 1. And then we'll have that maximum opacity, because I say you do need you need a very opaque liner to get that to come through. Okay, so I'll accept that, and there it is. Let's actually zoom in a bit on that. Just get a perspective view. Here we go. That's looking pretty good. Now, one might, for this, she's actually got rather pronounced lower eyelids, this character, Rebecca. But actually, I have actually got the line right there. I've got the line right. Now, I've just done it for the base color. If you do for translucency layer as well, it might come out to be too black. We'll just demo that. It was eyeliner 1, wasn't it? This is going to be too much, so I'm going to take this down to 50%. I know this from prior experience, so we'll okay that. Yeah, and even that's too much. So what we'll do is we'll go to the base color again, layered image, and we're going to knock this down to 50. So we'll have 50% on both the base layer and on the translucency layer, and that should just give us about the result that one. Now you see how we can have complete fine control on this. We can't do this any other way. If we were to use these base ones here, that actually is that's on the base layer of the face. And there's nothing we can do to customize that. But this gives us full control over the girl's liner. Okay, both the shape of it and also how thick or how opaque it is, how black it is, basically. Okay, so I'm happy with that. Actually, no, I still think it's a bit too. I think it's still a bit too black. So I'm just going to drop it down again on the translucency layer. Maybe down to about 25%. 20. Let's go with 20%. Yeah, I'll take that. So that's your liner. So we've got both a liner. If you just go into the layer again, the layered image editor, we can see we've got. Let's just make that a bit smaller. We've got our rouge and our eyeliner. Now let's say we say, oh, I don't want the rouge now. We just turn the rouge off. Okay, and we'd have to do that in the translucency layer as well. And then, so this gives you this fine control. Okay, now the important thing to remember is that when you're saving and loading into the layered image editor, you must always be using just the Photoshop layer. And I didn't do it right the last time, actually. I cheated, or I was just wrong. You turn everything off except that layer, and you save as transparency. So for the rouge, it would be that, and for the liner, you're just saving that on its own, because it needs to have that transparency in order to not overwrite the layers underneath, because each one of these is transparent. Okay, that's basically all we're going to talk about on the layered image editor. We've got her rouge and we've got her liner. The next thing we're going to look at is eyeshadow. Okay, and we're going to do eyeshadow differently. Why are we going to do it differently? Because it's the one thing that you're going to want to customize, and you're going to want to get very, very subtle feedback and constant feedback on changing that color until you get the color just right. So what we're not going to use the lie, because the lie does not allow us to actually change the color of the imported bitmap that we're using. And believe me, I tried to get this right, and it would just refuse to do it. So I looked at a different way to do it. Okay, and that's using the diffuse overlay. Okay, so what's the diffuse overlay? Well, the diffuse layer is also known as the base layer. So this is covered in my surfaces video, by the way. So when we're looking at Rebecca, we're looking at her face. Her face has got this base color. If I was to make that none, it's like she's in the Mikado or she's a geisha girl, you know, and obviously that's not what we want. So it's the base color that is giving the actual basic, which as a bitmap, which is this bitmap here, that's giving her the actual what we see when the light hits her face. Okay, you've got these other layers like translucency, and there's also top coat and things like that, but we won't get into those. But understand that the base is what's known as a diffuse layer, because it diffuses light when it hits it. Okay, we can introduce an overlay onto this. Okay, now if I was to just do this now, to set that to 1, we again have the same problem, in that it's trying to apply this color here, diffuse overlay color. If I was to change that to say magenta, you see what it's doing? It's basically overwriting that, because I've set that to 1. If I was to set that to 50, and this is where you see, this is where it's going to do its magic, in combination with a bitmap, which we're going to put here. Okay, so we're going to put a bitmap here. Currently it's just covering her entire face with that color. What we're going to use, a selective white bitmap to set the weight of that color. Okay, this is the clever part of it. So let's go into our go back to our bitmap editor. Now we're going to turn off the liner. We're going to turn back on the base bitmap for the face. Okay. Now it can help to have eyebrows here, because the eyebrows act as a limit. And just for the purposes of this demo, we'll just borrow Junifer's bitmap, which also had the eyebrows, because the eyebrows give us the guide that we need to know to the scope of how much we're going to do this eyeshadow. Okay, so the eyeshadow that you're going to use now, because in DAZ we're going to be coloring it in DAZ, we're not coloring it like we did with the rouge. We're going to color it in DAZ. We're going to use a white layer to do this, because what we're setting is a weight map. A weight map is basically going to be white versus black. Okay, by how much white and black is going to determine the weight of color. So black is 0, which is no weight. White is a maximum 100. Okay, so in that weight map, white will be maximum. So white will give us that full color there, and black will give us a 0. It'll give us nothing. It'll be transparent. Okay, so again, I'm not going to. This takes some time and patience and some iterative artwork to get this right. So we would create a new layer again, and this we just call it this will be demo eyeshadow. So we use our white brush, and you're going to paint on, using this as a guide. You're not painting onto the base layer, you're painting onto the new layer here. So you would basically paint where you think the eyeshadow is going to go. Where is the eyeshadow going to go? Go and look at fashion photography online. See where the models and the makeup artists are applying their eyeshadow. Okay, so you do it to both. You can use a mirroring tool if you want to basically just do one side and then you just mirror it over to the other. But this is essentially that's the rough kind of area that you're looking at. This is something you have to go back and forth on, iteratively testing it out. Here's one I've made earlier, and that, believe me, took quite a bit of work to get that shape right. Okay, but that is essentially the kind of shape you're looking at. You don't want it like I did it there. That creates problems with the lids. It's hard to explain. You just have to go through it and go through the pain of it yourself. So here's one I've made earlier. Now when we want to save this, we have to have a black background. Okay, this is very important. If you do not have the black background, it will not work. So it's white and black, and this time we're going to save as a JPEG. So we're going to save this as a JPEG, black and white. Okay, so we would save that, and we call this white base. I think it's base 2. That's the one I'm using. So we're going to use white base 2. Okay, so you'd save that, and we go back into DAZ, and in your diffuse overlay weight, that is where you apply the bitmap. So we browse to our bitmap, white base 2, and there it is. Now let's actually just make this, we'll give her a purple color, bright purple. Should make it a bit darker. And we're probably just going to have our eyes closed for a minute so we can actually just see this effect. Now we can already see that something's working, and it's looking very promising. So let's just adjust the pose. Just close those eyes. And she's at 8.1, so it's eye blink to close the eyes. And there we have it. We've got her eyeliner. It's looking nice. That's looking nice. So let's go and review what we just did there again, because there's quite a lot to know here. Okay, so we go back to our surfaces tab. We've got the face. We've got diffuse overlay weight. We've applied a black and white bitmap to the diffuse overlay weight, and we color it with a solid color in diffuse overlay color. Okay, now this is where the fun really starts, because you can get instant changes and results, immediate feedback by changing these. Okay, so I put that weight at 42. If I was to set that to 1, that's crazy, right? And this is where you basically customize. So that's too bright. Even if I was to go for the darker purple here, I mean, it's still, maybe if you were, you wanted to go for a punk effect, that would work, right? This is why we used the maximum whiteness when we did this. This if I was to kind of do a pipette on that, that will probably be 255 RGB. So you go for as much white as you can get, because you want the full depth to be able to play with that percentage there. Okay, so we're going to tone that down. because it's very bright. Now you can get very subtle effects there. I mean, that's almost like a daytime effect, like a day makeup. If you were going for an evening makeup, you'd want something a bit stronger, like that. Okay. Or you say, no, I actually don't want that color. I actually want to try a different color. Now we know that Rebecca, if you watch my color video, we know that Rebecca is a winter. So we can consult our winter palette. Okay, this is Carol Jackson's seasonal system. And we can customize that color to exactly the color hue that we want, so that we can get full control over the sympathetic color system that works for that character. Okay, so bringing up the winter palette, I'm going to choose, let's just try some of these winter colors here. I'll just bring this up on screen on the final edit. I've got it on a different window right now. So we can try, we're always looking for some cool colors here because winter is cool. We don't want any warm colors, no autumn colors, nothing like that. So this actually is a very nice color, which is fuchsia. And I actually just chose that instinctively, but I just looked at the, actually it could probably be a little bit more on the purpley side. Yeah, actually that is better than I had it just a minute ago, because that's showing up as that coolness. Okay, so we've got that color we can choose from, or we can try something like a pink. That might be a bit too bright. Yeah. But if we tone it down, that's more like it. You see how the control you have is infinite, and this is exactly what I've been looking for so long to basically get this level of control. Again, I'd probably darken that. So you've got your hue. This is your hue. You've got saturation. You don't really need to mess around with saturation because that provides you with the saturation, your overlay weight. But you do need to focus on the hue and also on the how much lightness there is. Okay, this is your lightness scale here. Okay, hue, saturation, lightness. So we'll just make that darker. Very, very subtle effects here. That's really quite nice. That's too strong. I can't decide. I mean, between the purple and the pink, they're both really nice. Again, you want to be thinking about if she's wearing a particular color. Again, this is where we can actually customize the makeup to go with the color that she's got on her, or perhaps the color that might be in the scene, the background, or some props, or so on. Okay, but we'll actually just go back with that fuchsia color. I did like it. Yeah, and I'll just adjust that weight again a bit. Just, I don't know, I can't make up my mind on this. We might come back to it. Okay. All right, so let's open her eyes again. She's been very patient. But actually, we won't fully open them. We'll just have it so that we can see the effects a little bit. Okay. Let's get the camera back. In fact, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to adjust this camera angle so that she's going to look down a little bit. And that way, because that brings out the lids a bit more. Okay, so that's looking pretty good. So we've got her rouge, we've got her liner, and now we've got some shadow. In fact, now that I'm looking at that angle, I'm actually going to go back and just make that a little bit more vivid. That's certainly more pronounced. Is it too bright? I don't know. Let's come back to it. Okay, so we've got the rouge, we've got the liner, we've got the shadow, and now let's talk about shimmer. Okay, now you'll see that when you look at women, especially on an evening, if they're going all out on their makeup, or if you look at any fashion photography, you'll see that eyeliners very often have a shimmer effect. By shimmer, what we mean is that they're producing a glittery or kind of reflective look. Okay, So how do you do that? Well, that's actually a separate layer. Now you can use the and that's going to be covered under metallic flakes. Okay. So if you scroll down on your face, we've been on our face the whole time. If we stay on the face layer, in the face layer you have metallic flakes weight. Well, so why don't you use metallicity? In theory, you can use the metallicity layer, but it doesn't give you defined control that metallic flakes does. Okay, you can just try this for your own edification, but believe me, I've been around the block on it. Metallicity does work, but it's just not even half as good as metallic flakes weight. So let's have a look at metallic flakes. If I have to say metallic flakes weight another time and not actually fumble over it, honestly, I'm going to kill myself. Right. Now, I actually had that turned on earlier, realizing that I actually should have had that turned off. So you might have seen a glitch earlier in the video where it was shiny in it, and then I turned it off so it wasn't shiny. So what we'll do is we turn this on now. It's going to have the same effect. It's going to have the same effect that we had with the geisha girl earlier. So her entire face has been turned into a metallic flake. Now, obviously, unless we want to simulate a girl that is wrapped up in cling film, then we don't want that. Okay, so what we're going to do is, again, we're going to apply a black and white bitmap to the weight. So we're going to apply a weight map again, and we do that in Photoshop. And you think, well, why not just use the same? Why not just use the same black and white weight map that you used for the eyeshadow? You can certainly do that, but if you use a different one, you can have the metallic, the shimmer operating, because usually you want the eyelids to shimmer, and you don't want the shimmer perhaps so much on the upper part of the of where you have the eyeshadow. But in this case, this is probably not really the best one. I should probably really edit this and just reduce this. In fact, let's just do that now. Let's go for it. Let's just do this live. I'm actually going to just edit this because I don't think it is the perfect one. Let me adjust my brush here a bit. So this is on the this is a eraser brush. Okay, so we just drop that down. Again, this is just going to be a wild guess here. Alright, okay, so that's how I call it eyeshadow metallic. I can do eyeshadow shimmer. Let's just save that layer. And it is eyeshadow metallic Gen 3DX2, we'll call it. Okay, so we've saved that now. That's number 2. Go back to DAS. In our metallic flakes weight, we're going to load the weight map in. So we select eyeshadow metallic Gen 3DX2, and voila. So now it's fixed her face so that it's not dominated her face, but we can already see that there's some kind of shimmer going on. They're getting some kind of reflectivity going on. Let's just do a zoom in now. I'm actually just going to have her close her eyes. So you can see now we've got a shimmer going on, haven't we? Now that's a little bit too shimmery because I had it set to 1. So what we'll do is we'll just reduce that down to 50. Again, note that we can just use incredible amounts of control here. We can fine control a lot of different things. And now we're getting there. But now get this, now we can adjust the roughness of the flakes, and you'll see that 0 is fully shiny, 1 is fully diffuse. Let's go with 50% here. And we can adjust that weight a little bit higher. Actually, roughness, maybe drop that down to 20. Yeah, it's maybe a bit too much. And you can even adjust the size of the particles. It's crazy the amount of control you can get here, and you can have so much fun with this. Now you see here, I don't want to keep going on to the actual bitmap because I get these interrupting. If you look at this part of a lid versus this part, okay, you can see that the shimmer is only occurring on one part of it. And also, by the way, you can change the color of the actual flakes as well. I don't actually now turn that off. That shouldn't even be on. You see now, because that was, I had some debris floating around from earlier, and I wondered what was going on. Okay, right. So, okay, so we want to have that cleared. We don't want any bitmap or anything on there at all. We're just going to use our white weight map, and let's adjust that. That's more like the effect I was looking for. Right, so let's actually play with this. This is where you can have lots of fun. So let's change that to pink, okay? And you can see that. So we've got our purple, remember our fuchsia color from our diffuse overlay, and our eyeshadow base. And now we've got our metallic flakes, which not only give us some shimmer, but also give us a second layer where we can have a different color effect. Let's just try gold or something crazy like that. So you can see we're getting a multiple layered effect here. Now there are some eyeshadow effects where you will have one color here and it will blend into another color there. And it's very expertly done by some makeup artists in real life. You can again, by adjusting the editing the weight map in Photoshop, for instance, if you just wanted to cut that out there, you could just have it on this part of the eye here, more expertly the way I've done that, and then that would blend that effect into having two different colors, one here and another color there. Okay, that's a little bit too bright. Let's just tone that down a bit. Yeah, in fact, I don't really want that color. Let's just try a different one. Again, we're looking at a color palette. I don't know. Let's just try. Just try something crazy like blue. I don't know. It probably wouldn't work, but let's have a look. You can get some really. I mean, that is a very interesting effect, isn't it? Wouldn't perhaps have it as dark as that. No, I do like that. You can see there we've got the it's like some kind of like sunset, isn't it? Or you know, when you get the sky in the different colors around sunset. So we've got a blue shimmer. Try to adjust that roughness down a bit, bring your shimmer out a bit more. That's it. Yeah, that's very nice. I don't know if density is going to affect anything, is it? I mean, yeah. I mean, you could play around with a lot of this for a lot of the time. Yeah, that's improved the effect, I think. Right. Okay, you get the general idea. Let's open our eyes again. Just for that final finish. Yeah, it looks very nice. It's a bit too bright though, so we have to tone that down a little bit. On the weight, just reduce the weight of the metallic flakes. Yeah, that's better. And we'll reduce the weight on the eyeliner a bit as well. Maybe not so subtle. Yeah. Okay. That'll do. I keep going back and forth on this. Okay. All right, so that's the eyes. Okay, three different components to the eyes: the eyeliner, the shadow, and the shimmer effect. Okay, so we've got now that plus the rouge on her cheeks, and now let's look at her lips. And lips I found really difficult for a long time for the same reasons that maybe you have, in that you go through the various different lip options that are presented with the character, but they never quite give you the color that you want, or they're too bright or something like that. Okay, see, for instance, that's the wrong color for her. It makes her look like she's a teenage girl that is first trying to use makeup for the first time. You know, it's not very nice. So how do we do lips? Okay, lips have their own separate, they have their own separate surface. It's not the face surface. So that does give us some more options. We don't need to use the layered image editor. We don't need to use the line. We can use an overlay again. Okay, so and you may have already experimented with this, and you're going to run into the first pitfall when you set an overlay. So let's just turn the overlay on the lip layer. Now obviously it was not going to be white, but let's say we want a pinkish color. Okay. Well, obviously not, we won't have it as bright as that. So we'll try to, in fact that's too, we'll just darken that. So again, this is in the lips surface, diffuse overlay weight, and then the overlay color. Okay, so we can get some pretty quick results, which if we think about, we're trying to match her eyeliner there. So we want something, we can have a fully customized hue, saturation, and lightness here. So let's just make this a little bit more pinkish or going towards purple. Because the overlay weight is quite low, it's basically acting as 84% transparent and 16% opaque. Because if I had to turn it off, then you just get whatever is underneath, and what is underneath is that's the base layer of the character. Okay, base, and also on the translucency as well. So that it is an overlay, meaning it is simply putting on top of something. Okay, because if we keep going up on this, it just keeps getting brighter and brighter and more ridiculous. Okay, but let's say we want to go for some really bright lipstick. Now that is too bright again, so just drop down the lightness of it. Okay, so we've got the lipstick matching her eyes. Okay, but now we can see that there's another problem here, and we can see, and especially when we zoom in and close up, and you've almost certainly come across this problem. And if you look at the line of the lips, it's too abrupt. Okay, you need something in real life. There's no way a lady is ever going to be able to get a line as well defined as that. So what we have to do is we have to do a weight map again, this time for the lips. Okay, so it's going to be here, because currently, because we have no weight map assigned, it is just, if we look at in the surface selection tool, that shows us the actual line of the lip surface. Okay, versus the line of the face surface, which is an exact jigsaw cut of the lips. Okay, so we've got the face, and then we've got the lips. Okay, so that is why it is drawing that line there. It's drawing that line because that's the dividing line between the lips, not the legs. That's the dividing line between the lip surface and the face surface. Okay, lips and face. So we need to apply a weight map so that we don't get that sharp line. Okay, so let's go back into Photoshop, and we'll I've already got one I prepared earlier, and this, believe me, took a lot of work to get right. Again, it's something you only have to do once, but once it's done, it's done. Now this was actually, I made these lips for this character Lacey, which Natalie is based on, and Natalie featured earlier in the video when I showed you how to transform your look. Okay, so when you're creating this weight map here, you have your character, and you're going to probably have to do separate lips for each character. Certainly character base anyway. Okay, you can see here that those are her lips. In fact, I'll just turn that transparency down, passage down, so you can actually see how I worked on it. So the idea is that when you're actually producing, and this is going to be a white brush, the reason we're doing a white brush is because we use it as a color overlay. So we color it in DAZ. We don't need to color it in Photoshop. Okay, so we use a white layer, and you basically, with your brush, a relatively hard brush, you want to try basically just get right up to the edge of the lips. And let's actually just do that now for Flynn. So we'll do a separate layer for Flynn. So this will be lips Flynn. Alright, so we'll turn off the other lips. We've got the base layer of Flynn on. And I'm going to knock this opacity down a little bit so we can see as we work, okay, how we're doing. Let's zoom in again. So the idea is, with this relatively hard brush, let me just check the brush. We want the hardness, let's just try 50% first. See what effect we get. That's not quite hard enough. It's hard needs to be closer to 100%, doesn't it? This is what happens when you're doing a live demo. Let's just set it to about 70-75%. Yeah, that's better. Right, that's just more than we want. So now you're going to trace that line. The important thing is to get it right up to as far as to the edge as you can, but not go over the edge, because if you go over the edge, you're going to get a hard line. If you don't get it up to the edge, it's going to look like you haven't filled it in properly. Okay, so here we go. Again, I'm going to have to go around again on this. Let's just get the basic in first, I think. This is where it really helps if you have a tablet, a drawing tablet. Every self-respecting artist should have one. I don't have one, so I'm not a self-respecting artist. All right, I think that'll do. It'll do, and then we're gonna find out how good it is by saving it. So now maximum opacity, and put our black layer on, because this again it's a weight map, so it's going to be black. In fact, I missed a bit there. We save that now as a JPEG, and this is lips. Actually, we need to say lips Flynn. Those other ones are lips Lacey. I need to make sure I got those right. So let's lips Flynn 1, and let's go back to DAS, and we're in the lips layer, diffuse overlay weight map. So we select our weight map. There's lips Flynn. And that looks pretty good. That looks pretty good out the box. Straight out the gate, I think I got that. Yep, that's it. I've got it. So we can see we've got the line. We've got a soft line around the lips. Okay, for that overlay layer. Had we not gotten it right, we would have had a hard line if we'd gone over the top of the line, and it would just be a hard surface cut. If we hadn't done it enough, this would have been incomplete. So we would have only had the pink, and you would have seen the underlayer poking out underneath the pink. And believe me, you'll see it. Right. So sometimes you get glitches like that. And just adjust it again. If you see a glitch like that, just adjust the weight again. Okay, let's just go back to the camera. Now that's probably a bit too bright, so yeah, just reduce that weight. I'm wondering if she's got, hasn't got a totally neutral expression on her mouth, has she? Should maybe open her mouth a bit. Yeah, that's better. So let's maybe give her a bit of a smile if possible as well. Yeah, okay. I didn't really plan on messing around with her pose too much. Just reduce that blink. Okay. This is just making things worse. Let's kill the smile. Okay. So, final review. The lip color is matching her eyes that I wanted. I think it's subtle enough. Oh, sorry. One thing I need to mention about lips is the I knew there was something not quite right about that. If we go back to the surfaces of the lips, again, there's some overhang, some baggage floating around from earlier. The roughness of those lips is not quite right. In fact, I think there's a top layer. I think there's a top layer on. Let me just check that. You never know what's kind of lurking around. I don't see a top layer. So this, yeah, here it is. These figures are too low. They're too shiny. So let's just up those. This creates a more natural roughness. It's not too shiny. Is that? Yeah. So again, with the lips, it's important to get the roughness right. If they're too high, for instance, then they look drab and dry like that. If they're too low, then, well, you can certainly be wearing lip gloss, but then it can be distracting. Okay, so again, you just have to fiddle around with this until you get the right kind of look that you want. I think I'm going to go with a combination there of a high 1 and a low 2 on the specular lobe. I'm just going back again. I'm thinking that colour's still not dark enough, so I'm going to drop it down again. Just drop the weight, increase the weight a bit. Yikes, we're going back and forth endlessly with this. But this is what. Welcome to the world of DAZ artistry. You're just tinkering around for hours sometimes to try to get just the right look that you need. Alright, okay, let's I think we'll leave it there. Okay, and we'll get a final render of that. Okay, I hope this tutorial has shown you how you can take control of the makeup of your character from blushing cheeks to eyeliners, shadow and shimmer, as well as creating those perfect lips. And if you enjoyed this video or found it useful, then please like and subscribe. You can learn more about my art by following me at Generation 3DX on DeviantArt. I'll see you in the next video.